Yes, we're there with you. So, we hope that we guest is on the line here because I'm going to introduce him. So, you must tell me if him there on line, you know. Him there on the line?
I am there on the line.
No, you know. A big thing this, a big thing, because I the first time I go to California, I do the first interview with this man I did the interview with. And we go to his house. And I was taken back with what I see in his house. Unbelievable. I don't want to call him a Marley Fanatic still, you know. But I know him name all him son. Half of Bob Marley. Roger Steffens, so you know, man.
You know, Muta, that was about 40 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, man, 40 years ago. Long time.
Yeah, man. Long time. And you've been a supporter for all that time, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for the gift of your support and your friendship for all these decades we've been trying to get this museum together.
I don't remember which one of them places, with Chicago or somewhere. But we were standing out in a kind of park here and we talk about how you go and go move that museum from one place to the next. And your ambition was to carry to Jamaica. And we see that now you get the right person, I hope, to bring it here. Tell me that journey with all of them things. Because it's not only Bob Marley, but reggae, Jamaican music in general. What inspire you to really start out that way there? If you just collect reggae, posters, album jacket, 45, anything we have reggae name on it. What inspired you to do that?
Well, you know, that was in Calgary in Canada that we were going to the museums together.
Oh, up there with it.
The Calgary Reggae Fest.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is a broad question, my brother. I have been a public speaker all my life, as well as a music fan of great passion since I was a little kid growing up in New York on Alan Freed, the guy who coined the term rock and roll. You know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame out in Cleveland is there because that's where the first rock and roll dance that Alan Freed threw was held. So Freed was a hero of mine. I met him several times. Even told him once I wanted to be Alan Freed when I grew up. And one of the great moments of my life is when I interviewed Little Richard and he called me Alan Freed Roger. So I've always been a kind of amateur historian of the music. I've got every record I ever bought since the 78 Shaboom in 1954. I was a New Jersey State Oratory champion when I was a senior in high school in 1960. And whenever a subject interests me, I keep a file on it. And someday I may write about it. Someday I may speak about it. And that's what happened for me in 1973. I mean, I loved the doo-wop music and the harmonies of the 50s. And I loved the political consciousness of rock in the 1960s. And then the major labels bought up all the exciting little labels and turned the music into disco crap. And I was looking for something in 1973 that would reignite my musical imagination and passion. And there was an article that I never tire of quoting by a gonzo journalist from Australia named Michael Thomas in Rolling Stone in the summer of 1973. And he said, reggae music crawls into your bloodstream like some vampire amoeba from the psychic rapids of Upper Niger consciousness. And man, I didn't have any idea what that was, but I wanted to find it immediately. And I went out in Berkeley where I was living, and I bought a used copy of Catch a Fire, the one that opened like the Zippo lighter.
The lighter, yeah.
Yeah, man, and I'd never heard music like that in my life, Muta. It just from the first notes of Concrete Jungle forward, and I wanted to find out everything about this guy, Bob Marley, and Peter Tosh, and Bunny. And there was a Jamaican man named Ruel Mills who had a record store in San Francisco on Fillmore Street in 1973 called Trenchtown Records. And he had a great selection of roots, and that's how I really began to learn about the best of Jamaican music. Count Ossie and the Mystic Revelation of Rastafari, and Ross Michael and the Sons of Negus, and the father of reggae music, Joe Higgs, who became a very close friend of mine. And, going to Jamaica in 76 for the first time with my pockets full of money that I'd saved for a year to buy records, having my pocket picked in Tough Gong as I arrived in the middle of a state of emergency. It was a real education, I'll tell you. Being able to be a guest MC at Sunsplash several times in the 1980s, and doing their radio show in LA, which became the most popular non-commercial radio show in all of Los Angeles in the 1980s, according to the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah, I remember I was round your radio station, and what them name again? Them sing a tune named Soul Food.
KCRW, and you were on when we were still in a little converted junior high school classroom.
Yes,
They just moved into a $38 million station.
Oh, yeah?
From that little tiny junior high school.
I think it's Manhattan Transfer, the group name, Manhattan Transfer.
Yeah.
They was there with me during the interview.
The show right before mine.
Yeah. All right. Make I ask you a question now. Because people are say, well, with a white brother, they just take over the music, so take over this and take over that, so. You said to that? Or you answer them to that?
I'm sorry, I had some trouble hearing that question.
No, I'm saying that
again.
You have a whole heap of people who say that, well, I call a white brother just come down and come just have everything in a reggae and Bob Marley and this and, how we make that happen? I say, well, I know we make it happen, it just happen, the way they, you said to them, what you said to them when them say that? Because you must hear that.
Being a white man in the music?
Yeah, I so involved with it to the point where people get jealous. Because when you have pan reggae, is where a whole heap of people don't have a quarter where you have. So
it does fill 7 rooms of our home, floor to ceiling. And my wife is so happy she's going to get her house back. Yeah, you can imagine. And, I wanted to preserve this. During my entire life, whenever I find something that I really love and that's exciting and uplifting and makes the world better, I want to tell everybody I love about it. And that's what happened right from the very start. In 1973, I was calling everybody to come over and listen to this thing called reggae music. Wait till you hear this. And in order to understand what I was listening to, I read voraciously. I subscribed to a lot of music magazines. I went to every show I could possibly see. And the Bay Area in San Francisco at that time was a hotbed of reggae, like Boston and Brooklyn. And they were the early outposts with a lot of very smart people involved in the music, and we helped each other. It was a great communal effort, and that's what I loved about it, too. So, whenever I came across anything about Rasta or Bob Marley or Jamaican history, I cut it out and put it in a file, and
well, I'll tell the people.
I'm still adding some amazing things in recent weeks have come in. I was given a book that was given to one of the nurses who cared for Bob at Dr. Issel's clinic in Germany at the end of his life. And it is a German translation of a Marley biography autographed by Bob, one of the very last things he signed before he passed. So that's going to go into the museum, and that was a gift. What's happening now, it's kind of bittersweet, Muta, because a lot of people like me are getting old. I'm 82. And they're passing away, and they're leaving me their archives with the idea that I want to build a museum in Jamaica to preserve all this and share it with the people to whom it really belongs. So lots of interesting things have been surfacing just in the past few months. And as word gets out that the deal is finally done with Joe Bogdanovich, more and more things are being offered so that Jamaica finally gets its history back.
All right, hold on. Before we come to the selling of the whole thing, all right, you had it in your house, and then we say a portion of it was moved into a boat, and you had that museum in the boat. How long you had it in the boat in California?
Oh, that was the Queen Mary exhibition. Yeah, yes. That was 23 years ago. It was actually going to be on the ship itself, but then Carnival Cruises took over the big exhibition space, and they gave me 2 buildings on the dock to fill floor to ceiling with whatever we could jam into those rooms. But a lot of stuff I wanted to show didn't fit, and now we'll finally have a chance 23 years later to build a place to fit everything. And then some, because we're also going to design a traveling exhibition concurrent with the permanent exhibition for Mobay. And I got some interesting news today. You know, we've been trying for 6 years to get the land in St. Catharines next to the venue where Joe does Sumfest every year. And I've been worried about that because it's sea level. And
Catchinall, you're talking about Catchinall, not St. Catherine, Catchinall.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, Catherine Hall, pardon me. So now we're discussing with the UDC a place of some height away from the sea level.
From water.
But it would be in Mobay.
And how that is going? How that negotiation going?
Well, after 6 years, nothing's been signed. So it speaks for itself, I think, Muta.
I remember saying 30 years ago.
Does Jamaica want this?
Well, 30 years ago, we was standing up, as you say, in Canada, and you was discussing about who you're going to give it to in Jamaica. And
you mean Mr. Lee Chin's offer?
In Jamaica, yes. It was the government, Lee Chin, or whosoever, private investment, but he was contemplating it. And I said
but there was no receiving body in Jamaica for it. He couldn't find anybody to take it.
So what the government said about it? What the government said?
I don't know. I wasn't privy to his conversations with the government.
Oh, no, you never approached the ministry, like the Minister of Culture, to deal with it? You never do that?
Well, no, they approached me about 4 or 5 years after I turned down Mr. Chin's offer, and offered me...
No, man, talk.
They offered me a lot less money than Mr. Chin had offered me that I turned down. Okay. So, of course, I couldn't consider that.
Okay. That is really something else. Because what would I have expected that the government would be so interested, because there's not like that in the world. I mean, I tell you that. Nothing. Where you have this, trust me, man. The amount of things where you give me, musically, give me. That me I say, why, he's a Rasta. The man spend the whole of his life, I collect peer things for reggae. Some posters. I come in there and see some posters at some show where I do from years ago. When we just start out, I say, oh, you get them things there. Oh, you get them, brethren. Oh, it's man bring them come here. Oh, you get them.
Yeah. Well, I'm always looking and trading and every spare cent and then some that I ever made over the years went into the collection. And my kids went to public schools, and we never lived a fancy life at all. But I thought the purpose of that collection overruled everything else, because the whalers have come here many, many times.
Yes.
And, they've told me that they've seen the major whalers collectors all over the world several times. And they tell me there's nothing in the world like it, so I guess I have to believe that.
No, but me I tell you that too. Me I tell you that too.
Yeah, man, I believe you.
Where you have the no, me try to find out all them cassette with Bob Marley, a rehearse and Bob Marley talk certain things where you know where. Oh, you get them. Where you get them from? Cause you never did it to tape it. Oh, you get them.
You know that there is a huge underground of especially Bob Marley collectors. He is the most important musical artist of the 20th century. He's the one that's going to live longer than Dylan and the Beatles and everybody else because his music stood for something.
Yes.
His music brought you to a higher consciousness. And he's a third world hero and also a first world hero. But what he did in those few short years he had is legendary. And he was a prophet, and he knew he wasn't going to be here long. I've talked about this because in my latest book, Bob Marley, it's called So Much Things. Thank you, Mary. I know. Mary's prompting me on the name of my book. It's called So Much Things to Say, The Oral History of Bob Marley, and Rolling Stone headlined its review because there are over 500 Marley books now. And they headlined their review, this might be the best Bob Marley book ever. So that
hold on. You say them have about 500 books from Bob Marley out there?
Oh yeah, way more than that.
Wow. That's
there's a fellow in Kentucky named Joe Jurgensen who did a bibliography several years ago, and he's going to revise it this coming year because so many hundreds more books have surfaced in so many different languages. So, in my Marley oral history book, I tried to have Jamaicans tell Bob's story. So it's interviews I did with him and 75, virtually all Jamaican people who were with him when he was shot, the son of the head of the CIA, who's been accused of giving Bob a poison boot, which is nonsense. And people who knew him when he was 3 years old up in 9 Mile, and his family and his band, and people who grew up with him in Trenchtown when he first came there. So it's Jamaicans telling Bob Marley's story. It's not Timothy White putting bedroom talk in their mouth.
Timothy White was it. Timothy was the outlet for all of Bob Marley one time. Tell you why about Bob Marley go to Timothy White.
Yeah, well, the least said, the better.
All right, I can ask you now. I could come to Jamaica, So Joe is the recipient of this massive wealth of history. Oh, you come to that? Oh, you come to that agreement? Because I know it's not it happens about his years, 6 years or so before this could have come.
6 years ago, our friend Colin Leslie put me together again with Joe. But, I've known Joe for 40 years. He lived in L.A. in the early 80s when I was on the reggae team. And he used to listen to it every Sunday, and he invited me and Mary up to his home for dinner. And as he established his time in Jamaica and started Down Sound Records, he would bring some of his artists over, and they would be on my television show. And so we kind of kept in loose touch over the years. But when he found out 6 years ago that the deal hadn't been concluded with anybody, he said, well, I'll buy it. So we started our negotiations then, and he actually flew me down to Sunfest in 2018. And we were going to make a public announcement that he was going to buy the archive, and he was going to sign the deal for the land that week. And they withdrew the permission for the sale of the land a couple of days after I arrived in Jamaica. So we weren't able to make a public statement at that point. And it's been a hassle dealing for 6 years with the UBC to keep changing the finish line. Every time Joe thinks he's got an agreement, and then he gets a copy of the agreement, the deal isn't what they agreed. And so he wasn't able to sign a deal with them. But I understand he's in the final stages now of negotiating with them for some land in Marley. So we'll see.
Is it that, well, maybe should I ask, is it that the land is empty and you're going to build upon it, or there's buildings on it already where you're going to, construct and reconstruct? Or how it work?
Oh, I think we're going to have to build a building especially for it, don't we? Yeah, it's going to be, Joe has promised a world-class institution. And here's good news, Muta. I think you know my friend Bob Santelli. Bob Santelli has been active in reggae since 1978. Like me, he's a New Jersey boy. He used to write about reggae in the 70s. And he's the guy who built the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and helped with the Experience Music Project up in Seattle. And he built the Grammy Museum. And he's building
Joe getting him for work,
Springsteen's Museum right now. And he's building a $156 million Museum of Louisiana music history. And he's come aboard as our senior consultant. He knows all the state-of-the-art things in museums all over the world, and that's what he wants to help Joe produce for Jamaica, a place unlike any other place on the face of the earth in Montego Bay to honor the great art and culture of reggae.
Yes. Well, Regine, may I tell you, it's something else. Give me where it coming from until now. And I remember, as I say, the amount of reasoning I have about this thing, and it really reached a stage now. I don't know how long it's going to take to build, but we hope say it's not a long drawn out time where you now get to enjoy it in Jamaica. It would be nice for you to enjoy it in Jamaica.
Yeah, man. I hope so too. Yeah. I pray to Jah that I am granted a long life so we can see it all to fruition. And you and I can stand there and open the door like you opened the gates in the Marley movie.
The gate man. The gate man.
Yeah, the gate man.
Yeah. Yes, well, I tell you, it's really something else, man. Really something else.
It's hard to believe that it's finally coming to fruition, isn't it, after all these decades, Muta, that we've been talking about it.
Yeah, man. Every time I meet, I talk about it. Every time.
Every time, yeah.
Every time I meet,
for
I talk about
decades.
it.
Yeah. I got tired of hearing myself speak.
Yeah, we have some. We talk about some things we wouldn't even want to talk on the radio at all. As it will
yes, that's true.
Yeah, we never want to talk that on the radio, but we're glad to reach out Jamaica. That is really what we are saying. It's really appreciating that it's going to be in Jamaica, that Jamaicans can see it, and people from foreign, just like how them flat the museum, the Bob Marley Museum on Hope Road, them going to flat that even more. They're going to go flat
well, this is the whole field. This is Gregory and Dennis and Muta.
Everybody.
And Slim Smith and,
I'll Muta and I too. I'll Muta and I too.
One of the reasons I wanted you on my radio show the minute I heard your first record was the fact that I read poetry for over a decade in schools and nightclubs and colleges, and the spoken word always was in the forefront for me. I did a one-man show called Poetry for People Who Hate Poetry. It was all living English language writers and the E. Cummings, who was too good to ignore. But, when I first heard what you were doing with dub poetry, I was so astounded by it. And, on your first tour of America, you were on the reggae beat with us, and that was such a thrill for me, Muta. So, there's 40 years of history between us, and I can't thank you enough for being my friend and supporter for all these years.
Well, I could make you move and don't know, say you have everything from me in your yard. I don't sit and cover Jamaica. I tell you what.
Yeah, man.
So wait, let me ask you a question. All of them thousands of cassettes there, you're going to digitize it and put it in there that people can listen to it going just in there, or that work?
Well, I've got a very dear friend named John Dubois. They know him in the reggae world as Dubois Garage, and he has been phenomenally helpful to me over the years. He's digitized, I don't know, probably more than 1,000 of the cassettes, the most important cassettes in the collection, to make sure that sound is not lost to history. And what we're thinking about is dividing the collection. It depends on several factors, but, there's been over 80 books written by authors who have come here to research their books. And that's a valuable archive for researchers to have in the future. So I think the books, magazines, newspapers, 140 cubic feet of clippings, all of that stuff, including the audio and video tapes, should probably go to the university, to the headquarters of the Caribbean, across the street from the campus there at UWI. And that would be a place where an awful lot of secret documents will end up, probably the 1,800 pages of transcriptions of the aborted Bunny Wailer autobiography. That belongs to history.
And I guess you have that too. You have that.
Yeah. He abandoned the project, Bunny, not me. And
I remember.
64 hours of interviews.
Yes, I remember, man. I remember. So that is a no. Not going to happen with that. There's no development.
Nah. That'll never happen. Maybe 50 years from now, some graduate student will put it together. But, we'll all be gone by then. I used a lot of that, the most important material in So Much Things to Say in my oral history of Bob Marley. The key pieces that history needed to know, they found their way into that book. But, I've got 1,800 pages of transcription. Leroy Pearson and I locked in a hotel room in Kingston for 3 weeks with Bunny Wailer. You can only imagine what that was like. There were one session we had 14 hours.
Oh, yeah?
14 hours. He didn't stop talking. I don't think he ate anything either.
What?
So it was obsessive.
Yeah. Roger?
So much things to say.
Well, give thanks, Roger. Give thanks, and we really say, yes, it's something we should have there for a long time. Because, only for the artists them who in that museum was alive when you was negotiating to bring it come to Jamaica from the beginning. And now them gone and pass away and never live to come to say, or hear say, it going to come to Jamaica. So it really give thanks, it reach a stage where you can say, yes, it going to come to Jamaica. So, I could see how long it will take to actually open up. We give thanks, Roger. Tell your wife I for me. Yes.
I will, and give my love to Jackie. And again, thank you for your support over all these years. I can't wait to hail you up fleshly.
Yeah, man. Give thanks. Give thanks.
One love.
That was Roger Steffens, the man, I must say, have the biggest collection of anything we want about reggae, whether the artists, whether the music, whether the written interviews, anything where you want hold your hand pan. It's like a research, it's like a research library, it's like a research. I mean, trust me, man, that's going to be a serious museum. We're going to take a signal break and come forward, yes. We have been talking to Roger Steffens, the man who spent most of his life. Well, as I hear me talk to him, and I say, 40 years, me and him talk about certain things. And him did that do it before me know him. So you must know, say, most of his life him spend, I collect all of these things to the point where now, all those who couldn't get to go to California like them days, go and get to see it in a Jamaica. We should have talked to, I don't know if Shamara can get Joe up on the line before the program done. I could hear what he say about the longness or the length of time where this might take if You hear the man say UDC kind of in some little if I'm but no and about the land and all them something there. I don't know if Shamara listen me, if you could have get Joe up on the line. But it's a big thing. It's a big, big thing. Yes, big thing.